friends. Welcome to Aroma Chat. It is Melissa, and I am over here on Guam getting ready to speak with one of my good friends who's back in the Pacific Northwest. And I got online about an hour ago, and I was like, I wonder why she didn't show up. And then I messaged her, and she's like, I thought it was at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I was like, oops, I'm still struggling with these time zone differences and trying to calculate time. So I had to hop off and hop back on. Not that you would know, because you weren't privy to that information, but I wanted you to know, because my word, I am so not perfect. And showing up to these chats and an hour early and wondering, where are they? So I just wanted to share that with you. Well, today I'm meeting with my friend Cynthia, and she owns Oilistic Aromatherapy out in the Pacific Northwest, and she works with trauma and children specifically. So I'm very excited to be chatting with her today and to find out a little bit more about what she does so that you are aware. And if you're in a situation where she might be able to help you, that you could reach out to her. And I also wanted to let you know what I have in my diffuser today. I have a blend of Douglas fir and rosemary. My husband is also from the Pacific Northwest, and sometimes we just need a little bit of back home over here on the island. So that's transporting me back to some really good times and memories and togetherness with our family. So anyway, so welcome, Cynthia, and let's get started.
Technology is my friend only when it works for me.
Yeah, you know, I'm pretty good with technology, but I'm not a fan of it. So it's very frustrating sometimes.
I like your hair.
Oh, thank you. I purpled it last week, and it's kind of washing out because I use that overtone. Oh, it's just a conditioner with color in it, with pigment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I you know, every now and then you just need a little fun.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cheap, easy, wash-outable way to have fun. So how are you doing?
I've been doing rides for the AFSP.org in honor of my sister.
Mm-hmm.
I started on the date of the anniversary of her death last month, and I finished today because she took her life 26 days before my 8th birthday. And so I was like, I'm going to do it. I know the weather will cooperate for that long.
Nice.
I live in Seattle.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah.
August to the first part of September, usually pretty bankable.
That's good.
You know.
That's good.
And
yeah,
so,
we're in our rainy season right now.
Yeah, I'm hoping for at least like October, because I've got a ton of tomatoes on my paste aromas. They just need the sun to ripen.
Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more.
Please ripen.
That's great. All right, so we ready to dive in?
Is my head cut off the way it looks?
A little bit. Is there a way you can scoot your chair down a little?
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Why didn't I think of that?
Well, sometimes we just need to think outside the box. And I'm a total out of the box person, so there is no box in my life.
Yeah, I hear you.
Cynthia, I'm so glad you were able to join me, even if it was an hour later than I thought it was going to be.
Timing is everything.
I know, or at least being able to tell the time. That might help me out. So I just wanted to thank you for hopping onto the chat today and sharing a little bit more about what you do. I was able to let people know in our intro that you work with trauma and children specifically. Is that correct?
That's one part of what I do, yes. I also work with licensed healthcare providers.
First things first, why did you become an aromatherapist, and why did you choose the path that you're working?
The Chinese have a proverb called the red thread. You know, you're connected to those you're supposed to meet in life through this invisible red thread. My husband and I had just celebrated 20 years married, been together 21 years. He's always been encouraging me to, like, you should go to Bastyr. Do you want to go to Bastyr? You should be a naturopath. I've always been, as long as he's known me, I've been involved in natural health and used to manage naturopathic practices and worked in allopathic practices as well. And I was like, no, I don't want that level of responsibility, nor do I want that debt.
It's huge.
I know how much money they're talking there,
right?
And I'm cheap. I believe in paying for quality, and I will pay for quality, so I only pay once. But I'm not just going to get a degree for the sake of having degree kind of thing. So I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then 14 and a half years ago, we brought home our youngest from China. He had been in an orphanage for 28 months, and there's a lot of trauma there. And just even the act of, being placed with strangers who don't look like you, smell like you, etc., is very traumatic. And so he has what is yet to be recognized by the DSM, complex developmental trauma, otherwise known as pediatric PTSD. I'm a retired nanny. I've got all this experience working with children. I worked with children who lost their father in the Lockerbie bombing. I'm a sibling survivor of suicide, so I understand pediatric trauma on a personal level. And, I could see my son was struggling, and I was trying, I did classical homeopathy, I did chiropractic, I did, you name it,
Right.
we were very fortunate. I married into really good insurance. So they had two pediatricians. They had an allopathic pediatrician who I used to work for and a naturopathic pediatrician. I was like, what do I do? He's miserable. He's telling me, why do I do this? How do I make this stop? And every time we would try something, I would say, this is supposed to do X. If it does, great. If it doesn't, let me know and we'll find something else. We'll keep trying. And so we were still trying when an acquaintance, ironically from a sustainability Facebook group, got involved with one of the network marketing companies and started posting all this stuff. And I was like, that's not really what we're dealing with, but maybe there's something here. And I didn't know I had been using aromatherapy at the guidance of my naturopath at the time, because it wasn't called that. She would just say, go to this special pharmacy that was a compounding pharmacy, and she would tell me what to get and how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know they were essential oils. I hate that word. But so I was like, okay, so we bought, several $1,000s worth, and we were working with him, and he was having really good results. So I was like, oh, let me see if it'll help with my trauma. I had a seizure because I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And the oils that they were saying to use for this and that and the other were not safe for epileptics.
Right.
And I was like, well, I'm trying to help my trauma and my child's. If I kill myself with these things, that's going to be really traumatic for him.
Right.
So I need to figure out there's clearly something here. He's having really good benefits, but I just put myself at great unnecessary risk. So that I started looking for ways to get educated, like reliable education.
Right.
Not just the vanity printed book, not just the Facebook group that says, drink this, spread that, inhale this.
Right.
Scientific information, because I'm a nerd at heart. So
I just have to cut in real quick and share with you, every person that I have interviewed so far, that's a common thread. Just so you know, we're all pretty much nerdy.
Well, you have to to take that extra step to being someone who just, throws this or that into the diffuser because it smells pretty,
right,
to why does it smell pretty?
Right.
Why is it having this effect on me? Why do I like this and not that? Because, they'll say, if you don't like the smell, you must need it. If you like the smell, you must need it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, where's the reliability in that information?
There's no consistency there.
Yes.
And I'm not a follower. I am a type A, here I go, get out of the way.
I did not know that about you.
I'm Missouri born, Texas grown, Washingtonian by choice.
Right.
At least for one, stubborn, you know what?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, I saw potential here, and I was like, okay, I have to get trained. Mm-hmm. And I was in a group, I'm still in this group, for parents who have children who've experienced trauma, whether, they're survivors of domestic violence or foster care system or whatever. And there was a lot of this network marketing person or that network, use this, use this, use this, use this. And even in my head, before I was trained, and I was saying, only certified clinical aromatherapist, registered aromatherapist, these are the only people who can make those statements.
Right.
You are practicing medicine without a license. You are not legally able to make those statements with impunity. You could face liability issues. I mean, I carry liability insurance.
Right.
Because I want to protect my clients.
Right.
I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm a nerd, but the science is always changing. It's a living, breathing entity, this science that we practice. And so I was like, always calling people out. I'm making recommendations to the point that, the moderators really started to notice. And when I completed my training, they asked me to write a post about basic essential oil safety for the group so that they could refer people to it every time somebody come up with essential oils.
Right.
Because they throw them out there as a panacea for everything. There's an oil for that. I have a whole blog post about why there's not an oil for that and why that's a good thing.
Right.
Everything in its place and in its time.
Right.
And so my training, it gave me the confidence to further help myself. And in working one-on-one with individuals, I do specialize in families like my own. Children who've experienced, it could be medical trauma. I had one client who had a really severe break of her arm, commutated fracture, multiple surgeries over 2 years, and her anxiety and her pain. So I would blend into bubbles so she could blow the bubbles on her way into surgery and stimulate that diaphragmatic HPA axis to help calming without worrying about the oils really interfering with the drugs she was going to receive while she was sedated. It's just that outside the box thinker, what meets nerd meets, I see this need and nobody else is feeling it.
Right. That's really exciting. And I use that word a lot, but it's because I just get super excited over just about everything having to do with aromatherapy. So this is really cool. So what would you say is the most common problem that people seek your knowledge, seek your wisdom for?
I was thinking about that, and I prepared something because I wanted to make sure I articulated it in a clear and concise manner. Currently, the focus of what I'm doing is I have doctors, neurologists, pulmonologists, pediatricians, gastroenterologists, specialists, not generalists. They're discovering their patients' use of essential oils are impacting how they're treating them medically.
Right.
So the doctors are hiring me to provide a class for them and their staff so that they can understand how their patients' use of oregano or cinnamon or fill in the blank essential oil is intersecting with their specialty, as well as, when they should refer a patient out for complementary care. And as a former medical transcriptionist, I have a lot of training in anatomy and physiology that, combined with my clinical aromatherapy training, really allows me to tailor a class specific to the pulmonologist, the neurologist, the gastroenterologist, because I've worked within those body systems as a medical transcriptionist.
That's amazing. You're actually working inside the medical community, educating the doctors and their staff on aromatherapy, how to use it, when to refer out, and how it may affect their patients' care.
Right. It's like a patient safety review. I'm HIPAA compliant. I'm trained in HIPAA. I'm well versed in HIPAA, and I'm an intensely private person myself. We know from, in the last time I looked this stats up, it was the essential oil network marketing industry was like billions or trillions. I don't even remember now.
It's trillions.
So multitudes of people. The chances are their patients, if they're not using them directly, somebody else in the household is. And this is especially critical for children and for the elderly. I'm more familiar with the healthcare needs of the children because I haven't quite gotten to I'm getting there, but I haven't quite gotten to that elderly stage.
Right.
So this was driven by one of my clients. She has asthma and was just getting her vents cleaned. And she did not know they were going to spray a solution inside her air ducts that contained really potent essential oils. And she thought, and it was Michigan, it was winter. And
I already know where you're headed.
And she's like, I'll be fine. I use a CPAP machine. She wasn't fine. She ended up in the ER.
Unable to breathe.
She has, to this day, chemical burns on her lungs and cannot handle any scents as a result.
Right.
And she didn't authorize this, and they're all like, oh, it's natural. And I was like, natural doesn't mean safe. Rattlesnake bites are natural. You don't want to get bit by a rattlesnake.
Right.
She kept, I was in such and such store, or this, or that. Everybody is diffusing essential oil. She was in a Whole Foods, and they had 3 diffusers going in 3 different places, diffusing 3 different things. And she's like, you need to do something to educate them at the risk that they're taking.
Right.
Okay.
How do I go about doing that?
Yeah, they have to be willing to learn. And so, I also do some, just a really small audit, for the body care worker, the massage therapist,
right.
My own acupuncturist has almost killed me twice because she represents a network marketing company, and I'll be face down on the table and she'll start, I'll hear, and I'm like, whoa, wait, what is that? And so I'm like, no, and I have to jump up and go wash it off. I'm just trying to educate her, do not put anything on me. I've had to teach my naturopath, if I have an appointment on Thursday, you cannot diffuse this list of oils anytime Monday through Thursday until I leave. And I'm highly sensitive. Everybody's like, talk to your doctor about oils, but the doctors aren't being taught about oils in medical school.
Right.
And that's not a slam on them. This is all just kind of come up in the last 20 years, and that kind of change takes time.
Well, and it's outside of their scope of practice. They're taught how to medicate. They're not taught how to look for natural remedies. It's just part of it's not their training. That's not what they're there for.
Yeah, and that's true for naturopaths. I mean, naturopaths are medicating typically more holistically, nutrition, herbal supports, etc. And they might do a small unit on essential oils. In our training, we're doing, 200 minimum.
Right, they're not immersed. Yes.
Yeah, and they're not doing the chemistry, and they're not doing the pharmacokinetics and the pharmacodynamics.
Right.
That's where I come in.
And you brought up a really great point about self-advocating, going to your doctor informed, even if you don't know all of the information, being able to walk in and say, I'm also using these essential oils in my daily life. And I don't think people realize that that's something that they need to tell their doctor, because that is a chemical that they are putting in, on, breathing, whatever, their body.
Well, and the doctors don't know to ask.
Right, exactly.
So we have part of my training for doctors is part of your intake process, either with the MA doing the blood pressure and the weight and all that, or when they're doing paperwork and as they sign in, should be, what essential oils have you used in the last 30 days?
Right. But
do you use regularly?
Right.
And how do you use them?
Right. But we need to be encouraging them as aromatherapists, encouraging the patients, the clients. Make sure that you're letting your doctor know. Anytime I create a blend, I always tell them what is in it so that when they go to a doctor, they can say, and I'm also using this, because it matters.
Right.
It does matter. And even though the doctor doesn't really understand aromatherapy so much, they can at least look at that and go, okay, well, now I know, and I can find someone who might be able to help me figure that out.
That would be
Which would be us. Exactly. So what would you say, moving forward in your business as Oilistic Aromatherapy, what would you say has been the biggest stumbling block for you? The hardest thing to overcome in your business?
I think probably the hardest thing to overcome seems to be the lack of understanding the significance of what it means to be an aromatherapist and how critical that is when we're talking with people with comorbid diagnoses, underlying health considerations. I've had 8-year-olds come to me who are on 8 different medications.
Right.
They start on this one and it has this side effect, and then this side effect. And so they keep adding these medications. By the time the parent comes to me, they still haven't resolved the original issue.
But now they have all these new issues because of the medication. Yes.
And so, and I'll look at these, I'll be doing my intake and I'm like, did the same person prescribe this and this? Because these aren't supposed to be taken together. How did the pharmacist not catch this? And I never tell anybody to stop taking anything. Sure. That's not my place. I do a very thorough intake. I do a complete body system. So I'm looking at it, and if I see a bunch of boxes checked in cardiology or what I'll say, you need to make an appointment with a cardiologist, or you should see a gastroenterologist. I'm seeing a lot of things here that I think you need to see a specialist for. And I will refer them out. Nutritionists, gastroenterologists, there's a lot of room for the two fields to work together symbiotically, especially as most aromatherapists I know, we know our place. We know that we're not curing, we're not treating, we're not diagnosing. We're simply supporting our clients, trying to improve their quality of life. My proudest moments are when my individual clients graduate. I do not want clients for life. I want clients that get the support they need. I refer to myself as one layer of the onion of trauma recovery, because I have worked with clients who cannot leave the house. They've been so traumatized. Their brain is so hijacked. They're operating from a brain bottom stem up instead of top down, and using their blends to help calm them down. They're then able to leave the house. And for these two particular little girls living on opposite sides of the country who don't know each other, their next step I found really interesting after working with me was equine therapy. And, where they go from that, who knows?
Right.
One of them was 4 when I started working with her. And my hope and prayer for her is that by the time she's my age, she'll have had more good years than bad years.
And that's one of the things I really love about aromatherapists, right? We do know our place, and we can look at the whole person, mind, body, spirit, and then make these out of the box recommendations instead of just, you need to go see your psychologist. What about equine therapy? Something out of the box. I love that we are able to think that way. That we're not.
And it wasn't even my suggestion. Just following up with their moms. There's like, she was able to go to the equine therapy today. She was able to leave the house.
Oh, that's amazing.
And
animals are so healing.
Well, and horses, they're just, horses used in therapy, they just have the most gentle spirit.
Oh, yes.
And they're so big, which you would think would be like terrifying to a child. But when they see this big horse with this really gentle spirit, and they've experienced trauma,
it's drawn in.
It's really therapeutic for them that, they don't have to fear all things big.
Right.
Because usually they're victimized by people who they're supposed to be able to trust.
Right.
And, there are multiple ways that they may or may not be victimized, but it only takes one to create lasting neurological changes to the developing brain. These things help the whether it's the aromatherapy, the equine therapy, they utilize that neurogenesis of the brain to help rebuild those pathways that have been damaged and broken.
I think it's all the things. It's not just one or the other. As humans, we have an either or mentality. It's either this or it's that. And I think as complementary practitioners, we're able to see that it can be both. It can be all. It can be some. So I think that's really great. So what gets you really excited just on a day-to-day basis with your aromatherapy? What gets you excited?
Everything, and it's hard to say just one thing. What I love right now is that I have a college student who I exploit their college library all the time so I can get access to databases I don't have access to otherwise. So I'm loving and really excited about all the studies I've seen coming out of Asia and Europe, and where they're doing. There's a whole, debate about how effective fMRIs are, and there's all this talk about placebo effect. It's still an effect. And when it's positive, that's all that matters. When it's negative, that's all that matters. You need to figure out why that effect was negative. And what I've learned over the course of, I don't just do continuing education training through aromatherapy sites. I attended the 31st Annual International Trauma Conference this year. I hate to say this, I know COVID has been devastating, but it enabled me to attend that conference because they were forced to go virtual.
Right.
And it always happens during the school year. I have 2 school-age kids. I can't just jet across the country by myself as an epileptic in the middle of the school year. It was really interesting. I feel like I'm a connector of sorts. I take classes designed for mental health therapists. Then, these things kind of congregate in my head and I start putting them together. Michael Mithofer, Rick Doblin, and others who are currently and have been for 30 plus years studying psychedelic psychotherapy. What I took away from listening to them and attending their Q&A afterwards, I had an aha moment. I have worked with 2 adult clients in my life who had childhood trauma. What I was able to put together was my clients, these adult clients, when they first got their blends, they were like, oh, these are amazing. This is, great. As things started to shift in their family dynamics, because those walls, the aromatics, they just have the biological effect. They go straight to the brain when you inhale them and boom, the walls you've had built up start to come down. And it changed their family dynamics such that their families weren't that happy about it. And what I put together from listening to that presentation was they were talking about when you do psychedelic psychotherapy, it's not just here's your psychedelic and come back after you have your trip and we'll do therapy. It's the therapy it's like a 4 to 8 hour or more session. It made me realize that if I was going to work with an adult who had pediatric trauma, it had defined them for 40, 50 more years.
Right.
It needs to happen in a therapeutic setting. They need more than just the inhaler. They need the inhaler sent to their therapist once they can safely go face to face again and use that blend only in the presence of their therapist.
Right.
Until they're able to get to a place where they're comfortable using them safely at home and it doesn't just jar the dynamics so quickly. Doing these different conferences, whether it's a trauma conference, an aromatherapy conference, a mental health conference, it's whatever, I do that because I know we are more than this or that. We are the sum of all of our parts. In too many cases, the neurologist isn't talking to the gastroenterologist or vice versa. And we know the best way to change the neurochemistry of the brain is through nutrient-dense food. I had my first seizure 17 years ago this month. I've never had a neurologist refer me to a nutritionist. Knowing what I know now through self-education is interesting to me.
Right, but in allopathic medicine, we've become so specialized that all we can see is the area that we're working on. We don't look at the whole person anymore. And that's not bashing. No, that's not bashing allopathic medicine, because we need neurologists, we need nutritionists, we need cardiologists, we need someone focused on that thing, because that's what's increasing our quality of life in this age, in this time.
Right.
But we've lost sight of the whole person, and that is something where complementary modalities come in very, very, very strong.
Well, and I am the zebra. When you're in medical school and you hear hoofbeats, you're taught to think horses.
Right.
And my entire life, I have been a zebra. Doctors, coffee puts me to sleep.
I love that
doctors
picture.
Would prescribe this, and it's a non-drowsy formula, and I would be unconscious for a week.
Yep.
And then they would prescribe this and tell me, don't drive because it'll make you sleepy, and I'd be awake. But I was at a thrift store, and they had this necklace that had zebras on it, black wooden beads and zebras. And I'm like, I'm buying that, and I'm wearing it to every doctor's appointment I go to when I see a new doctor. So I remember to tell them, please hear me when I say I am the zebra. I am not going to fit in the box. I wish I did. My life would be so much easier. I would have so many more answers. It took me 20 years to find a doctor that could give me an answer to this. So, we all have to be our best advocates, but respectfully so. I don't go in there and, try to tell them how to do their job necessarily. I had a phlebotomist say, "Are you trying to tell me how to do my job? I've been doing this." I was like, "Dude, I've been living in this body for 36 years. Yes, you're going to do it my way. You're taking my blood."
Right. They don't like that though. They do not like that.
I'm a really hard stick. I usually go way out of my way to see this one phlebotomist.
Yeah, that knows how to do it. Yes. So familiar. My husband has deep, invisible veins. You have to go in and up to get to his vein. And inevitably, whoever is working, it takes them 4 or 5 times to find the vein, even though we tell them this is where it is and this is how you do it. They still don't listen.
You can see mine, but the minute that alcohol hits, zoom, they're gone.
Right, they run away. Yeah. How can people find you? If what you're hearing is resonating and you want to work with Cynthia, whether you're a practitioner, a doctor, or someone who's needing help with childhood trauma and you want to give essential oils a try, how can they find you?
Well, my website is Oilistic Aromatherapy.com.
Okay.
I lived a holistic lifestyle for 25 years, so it's a little play on that. I'm a little too witty for my own good sometimes. I have a Facebook page as well. I have an Instagram page, but I don't really Instagram much. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't tweet, maybe in a couple years, but
I get it.
Yeah. I firmly believe that, in kind of like the field of dreams analogy, as a healthcare provider working in the niche that I work in particular with individuals, it's really predatory for me to try to market. At least for me, it feels that way.
I get it.
I do provide services, but I don't want to, are you suffering from this, or have you survived that? It's like too ambulance chasing kind of thing for me, and it doesn't fit my personality. I don't advertise in any ways that traditional micro businesses would and that I'm advised to, because it doesn't fit my personality.
We have to be true to ourselves. And I totally get what you're saying. I don't like doing it either. So I just share information and let people know I'm here. And that's kind of, I feel like you're kind of the same way, but I do want to link how people can find you underneath the video so that if they hear what you're saying and it's resonating with them, they can find you easily. So I wanted to do that for you. And my hope with these interviews that I'm doing is that it will increase your footprint as a business owner, and also that the people who need your services can find you easier.
And I'm right here, ready, willing, and able.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Cynthia. I appreciate you taking the time. And even though I was an hour early, we still made it, and everything's copacetic.
All's well that ends well.
All's well that ends well. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. I love that you're out in the Northwest. My husband's from Oregon, so even though we're half a world apart, I still feel connected just because of where you are.
Yeah, we love it up here. I grew up in Texas, so, flat, dry, hot.
Brown, very brown.
And I love the vivacious life, the water, the mountains, the trees,
the green.
Well, it's called the Evergreen State.
Well, I love it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye, Cynthia.
Have a good week.
Thanks, you too.